Okay, this is going to be great. Here we go. We've got two learning targets we're going to address. The winter at Valley Forge, what the big deal is with that, and what happens at Trenton. And then once the Trenton battle is over, what did the victory give the colonists? So, Valley Forge, you can see it. It's way super cold, probably the coldest winter the region's ever had. The food was really scarce. They were out of meat, so they didn't have any protein for the soldiers. Portions were low, and they had no supplies left. They didn't have any boots for the soldiers. You saw the clip on the video today where the guy's foot was frostbit. They were running out of uniforms. They didn't have any guns or ammo. I mean, they had some, but they didn't have as much as they wanted. And this led to morale is low. I mean, it's like the opposite of being in my class. The soldiers didn't want to be there. Their attitudes were poor, and all they were thinking about was where can we go next. Mostly that was home. The leadership part here, it's not that they didn't trust Washington or didn't like him. It's just that they didn't think any of the ideas were going to work because they were going up against the most powerful military in the world. Now here's like the super important part here, okay? So I want to make sure that you put something in your notes about this. Washington's main job was to get the soldiers to re-enlist. And what that means is the soldiers signed up for 6 to 12 month enlistment periods in the military, in the Continental Army. And so what that meant was a lot of their enlistment periods were expiring on January 1st. So they were about 2 weeks away from that. Remember, we were talking about being in December. And so those guys were just waiting it out until they could go home, because if they waited and served their whole enlistment, they could leave the military honorably and they could still receive their pay. So Washington needs to come up with this super awesome plan that's going to get them to take back Trenton and get people to re-enlist. And here's what he comes up with. He's like, dudes, I got it. Check this out. We're going to walk 10 miles. We're going to climb in some boats. I know it's going to be freezing cold, and it's going to be on Christmas Eve. And people are like, Christmas Eve, what? We're going to attack on Christmas Eve? What is wrong with you? And he's like, we're going to cross the river. We're going to get them right before the river freezes. Huh? What do you think? Everybody else is like, dude, you're an idiot. These are Hessians over there, which means they're hired professional German soldiers, and they're going to destroy us. Washington's like, oh, okay, I hear you. Cool. It's going to be brilliant. A surprise attack on Christmas Eve. They're going to be overeating and over drinking. They'll still be sleeping when we get there, and they'll never expect it. And then anyone with logic replies, this is a horrible idea. It's never going to work. I'd rather transfer to Eastridge than do this. So next slide is going to be talking about what happens when they decide to do the attack. I know you're all waiting. Here it is. Oh, even Julia's pumped for this. She is so shocked with this plan, she actually is going to put her phone down for a second and listen to see if this works. Okay, so here's what happened. Of course it works. You already know we won the war. What happens is the Hessians were caught off guard. The colonists showed up early in the morning. They were a little bit late, but still, same difference. They showed up a little bit late, but the Hessians were still sleeping. They were caught off guard. The leader was not ready for a guerrilla warfare style attack, and they were super unorganized. The Hessians ended up being surrounded, which led to them surrendering, and they retreated farther north. Okay, so to review, the attack worked. The Hessians were caught off guard. They were surrounded by the colonists, and they used guerrilla warfare, anything necessary to win, and the Hessians had to surrender. So what does this do for the Continental Army? Well, a couple really important things happened. Number one, it increased morale, which led to military reenlistments. Number two, they got a whole bunch of weapons and supplies. Things like food, a ton of it, okay? Like, we're talking buffets for weeks. Well, maybe not, but they had a lot of food. A bunch of new clothing and uniforms that were warm for the winter. A new supply of boots, a whole bunch of ammo, cannons, guns, etc. They also got to take the Hessian soldiers as prisoners, which means that they didn't have to fight them again during the course of the war. And then it showed England that it wasn't going to be a quick war. When you get to class tomorrow, we'll answer a couple questions on this. I'm going to ask you the following questions. So like, I don't know, maybe write these down so you can have a clue when class starts. Number one, I'm going to ask you, explain the conditions at Valley Forge. Maybe multiple choice, maybe not. Explain the conditions in the winter at Valley Forge. Number two, I'm going to ask you, what was the plan that General George Washington came up with at Trenton? Okay, I'm going to ask you that. You're going to have to write it out for me. What was the attack? When was he going to do it? Why did he think it was a good idea? And then the third thing I'm going to ask you, because you already know it worked, is what did the Continental Army get as a result? Maybe it'll be multiple choice. Maybe you'll write it out. I don't know. Maybe I'll make you do a skit or something. Who knows? But those are the 3 questions. So write them down. Figure out what the answers are. Come to class tomorrow ready to rock. Have a good day. See you tomorrow.